Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 3 of the Sports Advocates. I am Manistee News Advocate and Benzie County Record Pager sports reporter Mitch Fosberg, joined with me now, perfect 90-degree angle away from me in our conference room / podcast studio, sports editor McLain Mulberg. McLain, how we feel on this very bitterly cold Tuesday?
Well, it's freezing out.
Oh.
It's freezing out. I've got a mock neck, a polo, a sweater, a scarf, and a jacket. So it's freezing, but we made it in, luckily, and ready to get started, man. Ready to get started.
Absolutely. We got really cool two guests here for you. But before we get there, we got to talk about one big thing that happened on Friday. You were away from the office. I was covering a different game because this team was on the road. Manistee boys basketball snaps their 30-game losing streak with a 60-24 road win at Leroy Pine River. How awesome and how big is it for this program to finally get that streak, which also spanned 413 days, officially off their backs? Like, at least in your eyes, like how huge is that for them?
It's ridiculously huge. When you have something like that in the locker room, sort of hanging over you, like I would imagine, even for teenagers, who have a lot of other things going on, that kind of weighs you down a little bit, and now that's gone. Maybe these kids are going to be able to play a little more free now. Maybe they're going to be able to do what they want to do, and maybe that was something that was hanging over their heads. But this really does feel like a movement in the right direction in terms of, first-year head coach Zach Bialik obviously doing a great job over there and will continue to do so. And maybe this is the breakthrough that they were looking for. And, from your story, reading it, wonderfully well done, by the way. And, it really seems like that's the way that he thinks it's going to go. And, he's with the kids every day. And I always trust the coaches more than anybody. And because they are in that locker room and they're in those practice sessions that we are not at, and they spend so much time with these kids. And so, I'm hopeful, and as is he and you, that this is going to go in the right direction for these kids, and I think it will be. Yeah,
first of all, big kudos to the senior class who is finally able to enjoy a full year of normal high school life. Finally, because this group of freshmen was the freshman class when COVID first hit back in 2020, but to really kind of dive into what I think about Manistee boys basketball, let me take you back in the past. It's time for story time with your boy Mitch. So, let's flash back Mount Pleasant 2017. At our student paper, Central Michigan Life, we had some shake-up with reporters. So I was working the volleyball beat with a buddy of mine, and then my editor pulls me aside one day and says, "Hey, we're shaking things up. Can you cover the field hockey team?" Like, I knew nothing about field hockey. I'm like, okay, cool. At the time, though, they brought in this new coach because coach had before had won like 4 or 5 MAC titles, had to go in a good way, really competitive non-conference schedule, so the record wasn't always there. But at the time, this coach, they also had a losing streak. They were sitting at 24. By the time the number 30 came around, I wound up writing a column saying like, hey, this program's really gone downhill. What are you going to do about it? That column dropped on a Monday. They played Michigan on a Tuesday. That was the most fun yet uncomfortable post-game press conference I've had with a coach in my career. The Thursday of that week, I forced CMU's athletics to change their bio on Twitter and remove the part where they were building a championship culture, and the coach got the boot. Which is also unfortunate because she was 8 months pregnant, and that child was going to be her favorite because her firstborn son, 2 years old, was named Mitchell. Now, I bring this up. It was such a cool experience for me to write about a team that was having that same losing streak, but from the total 180 different perspective of like how it's going to change from here. And I also say this too. Manistee boys basketball is nowhere near the same as rough shape as Central Michigan field hockey was back in 2017. Bialik's got his head on straight with this program. It's just taking time for these kids to buy in, to see the results, and finally, for the first time in 2 months with these kids this year, they see like, hey, this hard work's finally starting to pay off a minute. So, where this goes from here, I don't know, but I'll be so excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, me too, man. You don't implement your system in 2 months.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, he has, just like every coach we talk to, right? And eventually Zach Bialik is going to be on this podcast, and we'll be able to get into it a little more. But every coach has their own set of philosophies, right? Yeah. He has how many sets of philosophies, how many systems he wants to implement, how many kids he has to talk to on an individual basis, and then from a team perspective. There are so many moving parts. There's no way he can get the job done in 2 months.
Yeah.
It's impossible. And so it is a process. It's going to take a little bit of time. And I think every coach in both counties that we cover, Mitch, will tell you the same thing, which is that your record don't matter. We just need to be playing a particular high-level brand of basketball come March. Mm-hmm. Come districts is where we want to be. And so if going whatever, poor record, good record, whatever you want to call it, if going a certain record is what happens, then so be it, as long as you're playing your best ball at a particular time of year.
Just survive in advance, baby. Just survive in advance. Well, we got a little spiel all the way. Should we get to our guests?
Absolutely.
All right. So I had a chance on Friday this past week during the snowstorm. These two brave souls tripped out. I had a chance to sit down with Paula Laws and Jackie Gutowski. They're two incredible women here in Manistee that are getting ready to gear up for a huge powerlifting meet down at Rochester Hills down in March. For Paula Laws, though, she is chasing down a national record deadlift after being lifting for 18 months. I'll explain it all right now. Alright, so as we're having this conversation, it's a Friday, it's snowing, it's windy, it's blowy, but also what we call it, it's pure Michigan. Drives me nuts, but hey, so be it. Joining me now here in our studio, which also serves as our conference room, Miss Paula Laws, Miss Jackie Gutowski. Ladies, welcome to the podcast. How are we feeling on this wonderful Friday?
Good. Yeah, cold for sure. Cool. Thanks for having us.
Hey, I'm glad you two were able to join us. So, the sport of powerlifting. It's always been fascinating to me. I was an all-state powerlifter in high school. Always enjoyed it. Paula, you've been at it for 18 months, if I'm correct?
Yeah, sounds about right.
All right. So, I guess first things first, what drew you to powerlifting in the first place?
I actually just asked Jackie if she wanted to train me to get stronger, and it was her idea to do the powerlifting. So,
okay,
that's what we did. Okay.
Gotcha. I mean, was there any athletic background for you in the past, or
not since high school?
Okay, what'd you do in high school?
I played basketball, volleyball, ran track.
Okay,
so
gotcha. Then Jackie, what's your background with the sport?
Well, with powerlifting, not super long time. I competed in my first meet in 2021, and then just trained for about 6 months before that. I did bodybuilding previously and competed in that sport, and then had a friend that did powerlifting, and he kind of converted me over to that side. And I did the first state meet back in 2021, and then, Paula came and started working out with me, and finally convinced her, as she was getting stronger and stronger every single session, I kept telling her, I think you should sign up for a powerlifting meet, and I finally convinced her to do one. So
Gotcha. So where does your relationship between the two of you start then?
I
don't know. I've known Paula for a long time. Probably through our mutual friend. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Gotcha.
It's been about 5 years, maybe more.
Yeah, probably since I've known Leah, which is about 10 years.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds about right.
So I'm assuming fitness is a big part of both of your lives then.
It wasn't for me until about 18 months ago.
Okay.
For me, it has been for, a long time.
Okay, gotcha. So, talk to me about those first couple of training sessions, though, because I know, very starting in weightlifting, it can be a very daunting sport to pick up. It can be also a very, physically demanding and a very tiresome sport after the first couple of days. But what were those first couple of training sessions like for you, Paula?
I was definitely sore after especially the second day after. Seems like, until your muscles start to get that memory or whatever, you just... you got to kind of just push through, and
I've had a lot of people that have asked me to help them and stuff over the years, and that's usually the first thing that I tell them is you're never going to be more sore than you are after this first couple of weeks, because it's going to be, when you go from being, not lifting and then start to lift weights, then it definitely is a little bit of a shock to your body. But we kind of went into the lifting and powerlifting, doing a lot of the compound movements, squat, bench, deadlift. I like to take the focus from people instead of trying to lose weight and looking at the number of the scale. We try to just shift that complete focus of Paula and just look about how strong she can get. And every day, she was asking, how much did I lift last week and how much did I lift today? And she just got more and more excited with, how she was continuously getting stronger and stronger. And it was really exciting for me too, just watching that. So I thought that pushing her towards the meet would be pretty awesome.
Gotcha. So for the early on sessions, though, I understand, probably the numbers weren't quite there, but I know every single lifter does have some strengths that kind of maybe come up out of nowhere. Like for me, naturally I was a deep squatter. Maybe it's the hockey legs. I don't know what. But from what you saw with Paula, what were some strengths that she had initially that maybe have surprised you?
Oh, her deadlift is definitely her best lift, I'd say. So that's the one that she's, when she first started working out with me, she's like, I have these injuries and I have to ice my back every night. And, I got bad back. I have, that kind of messes with my hip and this and that. And after she started lifting, I feel like a lot of that pain started going away. And, I was a little apprehensive at first and kind of went through, and we started real light. We started, with basically nothing on the bar. And, but her deadlift is pretty impressive. She's not too far off from a national record in her weight and age class.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So, have you ever done like that deadlift movement before working with Jackie, or was that kind of your first exposure to it?
Just with Jackie, I've never done any deadlifting. In high school, we had weight room, of course, but never anything like that, because that was back in the 80s. I don't know if deadlifting was even a thing back then. Who knows?
Gotcha. So at what point did you realize, Paula, that this is something that you felt you could stick with and run with?
Each time I went, I really started to enjoy it more, which is strange for me because I've never really liked any form of exercise until now, and it's, it doesn't seem like exercise, and I actually enjoy going, and if I have to miss a day, I usually, when can I get in to make up for that day, just, so I don't lose the strength that I've built up.
Gotcha. So what does a typical workout look like for you?
It depends on the day, but
okay.
Some days it's squats and then bench press, and help me out, Jackie.
Yeah, we are obviously with the three main lifts, the squat, bench, dead press. She works overhead press. She does a lot of accessory movements with RDLs, stiff leg deadlifts, more shoulder stuff. A lot of back workouts, pull-ups. She was liking the pull-ups a lot, but yeah, you could definitely tell that she was gonna stick with it pretty fast when, like she said, she had to miss a session and she was begging to see when the next time that she could come to make up for it.
What's the biggest challenge of trying to find the right workout program for her, though?
That's part of the thing that I think I really enjoy with working with people, is that it's always different. People have different exercise backgrounds, they have different experiences, they have different injuries. I work with another person who's had a shoulder surgery or different hip issue or different things like that. So it's really just starting real light. You just start from the beginning. We didn't go into anything too heavy, and taught her a lot of the movement, making sure she was executing the exercises and having correct form, and then just slowly packing on the weight after that.
Gotcha. Where do you guys work out at? Is there a gym around the area, or?
It's my gym. I actually built a gym.
Oh, wow.
In COVID. So when COVID in 2020 shut down the gym here, I was at the AFC that was here, and then my husband and I have always been big into lifting weights and working out, and we had talked about having a gym in our basement, but we had acquired a lot of equipment that we had stored in our barn, and when we decided to move it to the basement, it wouldn't fit through the door. So our second thought was we should just build a pole barn. So we now have a 800 square foot heated, cooled pole barn. It's a huge gym. It's pretty awesome. It's my favorite place in the whole world.
That sounds like the coolest thing. I mean,
Yeah.
How cool is it for you? You're taking on the sport, but you're doing it probably. I mean, I was a small town guy myself too. It's like, how cool is it to do it, and then kind of just in that fashion?
Great environment, because you don't have to worry about anybody else being in there, and Jackie just focuses on helping me during the hour that I'm there, and we don't have to worry about waiting for a weight thing, and
We can yell and scream when she
Yeah.
has a new PR. We can dance in between sets. Yeah, it works out great.
yeah.
That's awesome. So, talk to me about your numbers lifting wise. Where you at bench wise? Where you at squat? Where you at in deadlift?
What is my PR for deadlift? 215, 210?
Yes, your PR was 215, because I believe the state record for you was 210, so you had already went over that. Your squat was up to
165 was the max.
165.
Okay.
Bench was
90.
90. We're trying to go for that 100 for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's my weakest part is the bench press, but
Which is typical usually for women, so that's sometimes a weaker lift.
Yeah.
That's my strongest, so I'm not normally because usually people have stronger deadlifts or squats, but I like the bench.
Gotcha. So talk to me too about like what circuit do you guys compete at? I mean, like competition-wise, what's the name of it?
It's the APF, so American Powerlifting Federation, down
Okay.
in Rochester Hills.
Okay.
It's the one that's the state meet that will be in March.
Okay, so Paula, talk to me about that first competition you did. Just what was going through your mind in that kind of environment?
I haven't gone yet. This will be my first one.
The first one.
Jackie's been.
Okay, so I guess just to backtrack then, I mean, how are you feeling about this first meet?
I feel pretty good about it. I feel like I'm getting stronger, and Jackie tells me my numbers are there. Like I said, I would like to get my bench press numbers up. There's no way I'll hit the record for bench press because it's like 160 pounds or something like that for my age group, and I'm way off. So, and there's only 6 weeks left before the meet. So, but I feel pretty good about the squat and the deadlift. I just gotta focus on getting a little deeper in my squat. So
That depth's always a bugaboo.
yeah.
Not for you, it sounds like.
Guilty as charged, I guess. But I guess on the other side of it, Jackie, how excited are you for her to see her go in her first meet?
Yeah, it's really excited. I'm really exciting. I think that she's going to like it a lot, and the environment of it. Powerlifting is a fun sport, especially coming from bodybuilding, and I explained to Paula before, because bodybuilding, you're competing against everybody on that stage, right? People are not generally friendly, a lot of the times it's, you're competing against everybody that's there, so it's a little bit more, cutthroat versus powerlifting. A lot of people, you're competing against yourself, you're competing against, records. Everyone's usually pretty helpful and nice, and everyone just loves the sport that's there, so it's a fun environment to be in.
Gotcha. So
And Jackie is competing too. I don't know if you knew that, but
I was picking up on that.
I signed up last minute. I wasn't going to, but yeah.
because she just
I
had a
couldn't stay
baby
away.
not long ago. So
Oh, okay. Gotcha. So talk to me too. I know a big thing with athletics, no matter what sport you play, is the diet. What you eat, what you consume. What is that like for you?
lots of protein.
Okay. What are protein sources you enjoy?
Well, eggs, chicken, shrimp. I've tried tofu. It's depending on how it's prepared, it's not too bad.
Okay.
Steak. I love steak.
I'm always telling Paula to go home and eat, especially after some of the hard sessions. You need to make sure you're going home and you're eating a lot. Go eat lots of protein.
Okay, well, I'll ask you one question because I ask this to everybody I talk to here in this podcast for cheat meals. Does pineapple belong on pizza?
I'm not a big fan of it, but
Okay.
I know my son likes it.
I'll eat pizza with anything on it. I don't care. I'm probably going to go get a pizza after I leave here.
It's a good day for that.
Yeah.
I love that. I guess to kind of wrap this up here, I mean, did you ever envision yourself competing in a powerlifting competition at all in your life?
Never would have guessed I'd be doing this, especially at 53.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm excited though.
Gotcha. I mean, I guess I'll ask this up for you both, you two. I mean, from when you started a year and a half ago to now, I mean, just what's the biggest pride you take about in the progress you've made so far?
When I look in the mirror at my biceps and my shoulders and what is this one? Traps. Yeah. Then I can tell that I've been working hard.
Same thing for you. What's the biggest takeaway with pride you take from what she's accomplished so far?
Yeah, all that stuff. I think she's gained a lot of confidence in herself and her ability to do hard things, right? That's kind of, weightlifting. Sometimes people think that it's a sport, or people maybe, they're just so preoccupied with the gym, but it definitely gives you confidence in knowing that you can do hard things, right? It's hard. No, that's why a lot of people don't do it. But she comes and shows up, every day, every session, and works hard. And if I give her the option to what I really like about Paula, I give her the option. Well, today, if you want to do, we can do this or we can do this. She's always going to choose the harder version of whatever I give her. So it's it's pretty awesome.
What is it about the always going the harder way that just, you like a challenge, or?
I do. I like a challenge, but I also don't like to disappoint Jackie.
You've never disappointed me. What are you talking about?
Thanks.
So that first meet too, also coming up. What kind of gives you probably the nerves going into that first one?
I said to Jackie a couple weeks ago that I don't feel really nervous yet, so maybe it'll come like right before, but right now I feel pretty good.
And I told her she wants those nerves, that adrenaline, and give her an extra 20 pounds on her lift. And she, I remember when I was my first one, when I was shaking so bad, but it kind of helps to your advantage. So.
Yeah.
Alrighty, well, Paula, Jackie, thank you so much for joining me today. And
Thanks again.
Hope we have a safe trip back home.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Big thanks to Paula and Jackie again for coming out and joining me on that very, very cold and snowy Friday night. That was still actually a lot of fun somehow. So, McLain, we had 2 football games on Sunday. Only one more Sunday left of NFL football. I might break down again. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But let's talk about these games, though. Philadelphia, NFC champions. Rookie quarterbacks now 0-5 in conference championship games. But, Purdy was what Purdy was, and one thing happened. But what was your biggest takeaway from that game?
Yeah, Purdy was hurt. He got hurt. He only threw the 4 passes. I would like to add, for being a rookie and everything that goes into that and being in a big spot, he was 4 for 4 for 23 yards. So we really don't know what would have happened. I think having, what was that young kid's name, Josh Johnson or something like that?
Yeah.
That's tough. That's a tough situation to be in for the 49ers. I had Philly winning this game anyways, and so... I wasn't necessarily surprised by the outcome, but of course the lack of production from the 49ers was tough to watch. It was tough to stomach. I think that team could have done a lot better with Purdy under center. Obviously I don't think they would have won. I think it was 0-5 for rookies in that spot regardless, but it would have been a far better game. It would have been more competitive. I think he got hurt, the Eagles smelled blood, and they pounced.
Yeah, definitely with you there. 2 big takeaways from each team. Well, first, San Francisco side, Brock Purdy tore his UCL and his stowing elbow. Now, for those of you who don't know what the UCL is, when a pitcher gets Tommy John surgery, like Justin Verlander did back a while ago, that's the ligament they have to repair, and that takes up to buffers 2 years before you can pitch back again. So that's the injury Purdy had to deal with, just to help magnify what a rookie was going through. And also why San Francisco's offense got one-dimensional. You also see now why that McCaffrey trade was so big for them. Because that's kind of the only way they got their, 7 points in that game? That's huge for them. But now also, too, we look at San Francisco, okay, Trey Lance went down, Jimmy Garoppolo went down, Brock Purdy went down the NFC title game. Christian McCaffrey threw a pass. Their 5th-string quarterback, emergency 5th-string quarterback. Do you dare look at this quarterback market this offseason and think, if we can bring in a guy for 1 year, we got to do it? I think if you're San Francisco, you got to start having that conversation.
If you're the 49ers and you want to win a Super Bowl now,
you got to do it.
Lamar Jackson. He's going to be out there. He's going to be out there. I'm not sure that I'm the biggest Lamar fan, but that's a big name on the market. And I'm just saying, if you're looking to drop star power and really beef that up, become... a super team, I guess, so to speak, right? You've got McCaffrey, excuse me. Yeah. You've got Debo, you've got George Kittle, you've got all those boys on defense, Fred Wagner and Bosa and everybody. And then you throw Lamar Jackson into the mix? I don't know. That's scary. That's scary, isn't it?
Now, me personally, I would buy more toward Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady because those guys can get to the top of the mountains and win at the top of that mountain.
I got to say one thing, and, people can get on me all they want, but Tom Brady's dead in the water. It's over. It's over. So I don't want Tom Brady. Yeah. I don't want to give Tom Brady 1 year, $25 million, 1 year, $15 million, whatever he wants. I know I don't know where he is at mentally right now, of course. If anybody saw the interview on his podcast, he had some colorful language for the guy that asked him the question about if he was coming back or not. Yeah. I think he's dead in the water. If I'm the 49ers, to stay away from him. I like Aaron Rodgers a lot better as a 1 year lender in that spot. If I could have anybody, I'd want Aaron Rodgers. Yeah. I'm just saying Lamar because I don't think they're going to get Aaron.
Yeah. Now, with Philadelphia, my biggest takeaway. We have to go back a ways, though. go back to 2012. I know, a lot of flashbacks for me this episode. I love it. So, 2012 hits. Washington trades up to number 2 to select Robert Griffin III, right? Because at the time, there's this new trend with quarterbacks, kind of mobile guys, athletic guys who can still throw the ball, trying to pin that down. Now, that Washington staff also, if you remember on the offensive side of the ball, the guys they had under Mike Shanahan, Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, Matt LaFleur, Mike McDaniel. For the best offensive minds in the league now, all in that staff. You had those minds that are trying to figure out how to make work with this quarterback. And it was working until Robert Griffin's knee in Seattle against Seattle in a wildcard game bent a way a human knee should not bend. He was never the same after that.
Cost him his career.
It also kind of killed that revolution in the quarterback. We never saw the ceiling that RG3 was going to have. But we're seeing it with Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is exactly what we thought RG3 was supposed to be. 100%, he is that guy. Because you mentioned the names I threw right off there, right? I mean, Sean McVay needed some sort of more mobile quarterback. Jared Goff wasn't it. See you later. They'll probably find some guy after Stafford who's going to fix that mold. Kyle Shanahan, 2 years ago in the draft, he traded up for who? A mobile quarterback, Trey Lance. Matt LaFleur traded up for what quarterback? Jordan Love. Big mobile guy. Mike McDaniel has Tua, but for them being linked to Lamar Jackson also too, at the time it's like they're looking for the mobile quarterbacks. Philly pulled this off because they found a guy with the right arm, the right speed, and the right confidence. Like I mentioned with Burrow, I think with Joe Burrow, it's a reminder to all of us that in order to be an alpha quarterback in this league, you gotta have confidence. Jalen Hurts is that guy that's kind of, every time life knocks him up, he has found his face and gets back up and asks for another. Maybe bites kneecaps off. I won't go that far. But still, Philly's built the right way with the offensive line to keep him protected, keep him upright. And now they're reaping the rewards because they're the first team to actually have this mobile quarterback fit right and possibly get them the title. They're the first team to do it. It wasn't guys like Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, Matt LaFleur, and Mike McDaniel. There's Nick Sirianni. Nick Sirianni, who also fits on Frank Reich's coaching tree, which ironically enough, OC at Philadelphia. So, yeah, that's the big thing with Philly. They got the quarterback right, and they got the quarterback of the future mold right. So, yeah.
I'll be very interested to see, where the organization goes moving forward. I don't know what Nick Sirianni is going to be when his coaching career is over. I don't know how we're going to look at him. But clearly there's something there, and it worked very well this year. Jalen Hurts. Mitch, I don't know if it's our generation or not, but I still kind of look at some guys sometimes and I'm like, you know what? That guy's cool. If I was a kid, I'd want to be that guy. Yeah. And right now, to me, the two guys are Joe Burrow and Jalen Hurts. Those guys are just cool. You see them in interviews, how they're dressed, their vernacular, their body language and stuff. I mean, you just want to be like those guys. Yeah. And so, that you bring up an amazing point about the RG3 thing. I want to ask you one other thing because you're on a roll here. What happens with Trey Lance?
Honestly, it's a wait-and-see game. I think, actually, really enough, my brother texted me this morning asking, can San Francisco get a first-round pick of him in the trade? And I said, you'd be lucky to get a day 2 pick out of him because you're not going to budge on just potential. I think when we've seen him, he's been okay. But, I don't think Kyle Shanahan's ready to move off him entirely yet. I think training camp is going to be so interesting, especially if Garoppolo does go elsewhere. But... yeah.
It feels like in a few years we're going to be looking at that pick and calling it a mistake.
Yeah, but if Purdy can somehow keep them relevant in the Big L picture, that wound gets a lot less salt in it.
So you're holding your breath a little bit on Trey Lance. You're not really sure what's there yet, is what you're saying? Just because of the injury and obviously... yeah,
and some quarterbacks just take a little longer to go. We didn't see what Aaron Rodgers could do until, year 5? Jeff Garcia was a journeyman. Kurt Warner's a perfect example. He didn't get his big break until he's 28, 29 with the Rams. Some guys just take a little while, and he has to be in the right situation. I think Lance is in the right situation. It's just injuries have just kind of been a bugaboo, which is a really bad curse for the Niners, by the way. That's just been so weird for the past couple of years. But
They've been right there. It's just they've struggled to get over the hump there, and it has been injury riddled. And I'm not really sure what that is. If that's injury history, if that's trainers, if we need to be looking at nutritionists or anything in that organization. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a lot that goes into staying healthy and being less injury prone, and maybe there is something there. I always say, why is it every single year? For we're going to go off on a side note here, guys, but it ties in because I always tell myself, why is it every single year a huge cog in the machine of Michigan State basketball is going to have a foot injury? Here we go. Malik Hall. I mean, every year it happens every year, and so this just feels the equivalent to the 49ers and what their fan base is probably feeling, which they've been right there. But every year it seems like somebody goes down at the wrong time, and it becomes extremely frustrating from a fan's point of view because these are $1 million athletes. These are, one percenters. Their bodies are in the utmost shape they need to be in, and so you're like, dang, like, why is this happening every single year, and what is it, and what can you do to fix it? Mitch. But I want to move on here to the next game with the Bengals in Kansas City and what your thoughts on that game were. Obviously at the end, and I want to spend a little time on it, that controversial call out at the end with the out-of-bounds hit. Was that a late hit? Was it not a late hit? And we'll go from there. Go ahead.
Okay, Mitch. First of all, how was the hit controversial? He's a good step out of bounds. Yes, it was what it was, but also, though, I mean, Sky Moore had a really good punt return to put him at the 50, and at that point I knew that's game over. I mean, it is what it is. But that call, I mean, I don't even want to talk about that penalty because that's so, not even so important in this game. The big thing is you have two of the elite quarterbacks in the league, and the quarterback who had the ball last won the game. Sure. That's exactly how it goes in the AFC. Sure. Whoever's the quarterback last, that's funny now. Whoever has the ball last wins. My biggest concerns were, Kansas City's young defense against offensive line that got to a Super Bowl last year. You're right with Chris Jones. They had no answer for him, especially they put him outside the edge over their second string right tackle, which I think my can of energy drink could hold up better right now, personally. But no, Kansas City got out to a lead and they didn't blow it away this time. I mean, Cincinnati played as well as they could. It's just, we have two elites like that. It just comes down to who has the ball last, at least from the Bengals side.
Somebody's got to win that game, and you're right. You put the ball in the hands of Patrick Mahomes with that much time left, it's not good news. I would like to add that he is a step out of bounds, of course, when there is a tumble. Doesn't appear to be a hit. It appears that feet get tangled and he falls. If you watch the replay closely and you look at the defender's feet, he doesn't get a shoulder shrug. He doesn't get a what do they call that when you just bumping somebody real quick?
Yeah.
He doesn't get one of those. I think feet get tangled and he falls down and referees react to the falling.
Yeah.
That obviously helps Kansas City. I think they would have scored anyways probably, but does Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes need any extra help, I guess is the question.
Yeah.
It more or less looked like he fell down tripping on the defender's feet than it did the defender on, mistakenly hitting him, right? And so that's what it looked like to me. Is it a controversial call? It's a big one.
Yeah.
It's not as bad. It's certainly nowhere near the stratosphere of Rams and Saints from a few years ago with that missed pass interference, which was the worst missed call in all of football in my entire time watching football. Yeah. But Joe Burrow, what I'll say and sort of end it on my point, and you more than welcome to add anything after that if you would like. Watching it, Joe Burrow was given the ball with 2 minutes and 30 seconds left. That's a legacy drive. He needed to score.
Yeah.
2 minutes and 30 seconds left in the game. Patrick Mahomes on the sideline sitting on, probably got his little warmer on, trying to keep cool, trying to keep warm. Joe Burrow needed to score a touchdown on that drive, and then that eliminates any talk about the final drive.
Yep. Gotcha. My last point here about the Chiefs. I was right. Back in March, actually I can tell you this exact date, March 26th it came out, I wrote a column about saying how the AFC West, Kansas City was going to be just fine because they just lost Tyreek Hill. The Broncos, Chargers, Raiders all make big moves. Everyone's talking about, Kansas City's done. Kansas City is over. It's going to be a new AFC champ this year. Mahomes doesn't have it without Tyreek Hill. He has no weapons. He's lost. It's done. It's over. Tyrann Mathieu's gone. Who's come out of the AFC again this year? This was the one year where someone like the Chargers could have made a move. Bengals could have made a move. Jacksonville out of nowhere could have made a move. Buffalo could have made a move. But who's the last team standing in the AFC? This was the 1 year. And what these teams do? Buffalo chokes against Cincinnati. Cincinnati can't keep Burrow upright again. The Chargers have one of the biggest choke jobs in NFL history against the Jaguars. And yet here's Kansas City with Mahomes with the high ankle sprain in his right leg, going for playing another Super Bowl. The last 5 years, AFC title game has been in Kansas City. Last 5 seasons. And people thought back, in the offseason, like, Kansas City was done? No. This team's not done because they have the best player on the planet. They have the best quarterback in the planet. They have one of 2 guys that should win the MVP. Other one being Jalen Hurts, in my opinion, for the reasons I just gave, about 15 minutes ago. But everyone thought Kansas City was dead in the water. No.
Who's that sound like, Mitch? What's that sound like to you if this is 10 years ago and those things are being uttered? There's a different team name in there where that happened multiple times throughout their 20-year dynasty, where we'd come at a crossroads and somebody like Max Kellerman would be bloviating up there saying how they're done, it's over, the Patriots are not going to do it again, and here we are. Is the Kansas City Chiefs, are they going to become the newest NFL dynasty? Because these are the narratives. You're right. You just launched all the narratives. And what happened years and years ago, don't remember the date, but who did Tom Brady lose to on a Monday night or a Sunday night? Can't remember the day. I apologize, people, but it was week 4 of the NFL regular season. He was trounced by the Kansas City Chiefs, and everybody said the Patriots were done, and I believe that's the same year that they beat the Falcons in the Super Bowl. So are the Chiefs the new Patriots?
No, because they're wired so differently. I think if you look from a legacy standpoint, I can understand why he's saying that. But the whole thing with the Patriots dynasty is, well, it was Bill Belichick, and they had some really good defensive players in there. I mean, Willie McGinnis, Richard Seymour, Vince Wilfork, Stephen
Junior
Gilmore.
Seau, yeah, you said Vince.
Mike Vrabel.
Darrelle Revis.
Teddy Bruschi, so many great guys. When you look at the Chiefs, it's kind of the flip end. What do you have the offensive end? I mean, they got Orlando Brown Jr., Travis Kelce. They had Tyreek Hill. He's moved on. It's very similar to the way Deion Branch moved on. Anyway.
But is this team going to win multiple Super Bowls? Is Patrick Mahomes going to win 5 rings? Is this going to be the next sort of dynasty that we can cling to? Of course, 20 years what Tom Brady and Bill Belichick were able to accomplish, I'm not sure we'll ever see it again. But, if they have 10 years, if they have 12 years, is this going to be the next dynasty?
I think we're already living in it, honestly. I mean, 5 straight AFC title games at home. You've been to, 3 Super Bowls at least?
3 Super Bowls.
Yeah, okay, so last
winning one, lost one, and now they're back in.
Yep, okay, I got one. Yep, okay, yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, 3 Super Bowls in 5 years, that's kind of a dynasty, isn't it? I mean, it's not like the dynasty we've had in our sports lives, but...
It's growing is what I'm saying. And the narrative, right? You turn it on ESPN, you turn it on some of these talk shows, you turn it on a Colin Cowherd, and people are telling you, right, that this team is over, that Tyreek Hill's shipped off, that they're dead in the water, that they're not going to do it. And they are, and to me, that just seems like too familiar of a narrative, for the most dominant team in football.
Yep. But biggest takeaway, I'm right. Pros are wrong. Let's move on to the next segment. So, one last thing. Mr. Moberg, I'll give you the floor first.
Guys, I hate to bore you with my golf, enjoyment again, my love of golf, but here we go. If you were paying attention to golf this weekend, there was a couple of tournaments on. There was the Farmers Insurance Open, which, John Rahm and guys like that were playing in. And then we have the Dubai Hero Classic, I believe is what it's called. And there was some drama there. It's called the Dubai Desert Classic. It's a tournament that Rory McIlroy ends up winning, and he was facing Patrick Reed, or he was facing off against him, rather, in the final round to win the tournament. The reason that's significant is because the main point of this discussion is that, once again, rivalries are good for the sport of golf. We had DeChambeau and Brooksy, and now I think we've got Patrick Reed and Rory McIlroy. These two are beefing, as the kids say. So it's a weird thing, right? Patrick Reed hadn't seen Rory in a while. They're generally on good terms. If everybody remembers their amazing battle in the Ryder Cup in 2016 when they went back and forth there. They've been on good terms, and they've often defended each other in press conferences. When Reed was in trouble with the media a few times with some rules violations, Rory did come to his defense in those post-round pressers. Now, though, they're on shaky ground. Rory was, down working on his TrackMan or trackpad or whatever that's called in golf. Can't remember. And he wanted to shake hands. Patrick was shaking hands with Rory's caddy, and he was going to shake hands with Rory. And Rory completely blatantly ignores him. And what happens is Reed ends up just saying, "Whatever, man," and he flicks a tee that he had in his pocket at Rory. He just flicks it at him. I don't know if it hits him. I don't know if it just hits the ground. But he just flicks it at him in his general direction. Pretty light stuff, but people took off with it. Right? And then they were poking jabs at each other all week throughout the pressers. Reed's calling Rory an immature little child. But here's the kicker. Mitch, and I want to ask you, because I want to get you in on this. This is why Rory is mad, I have to imagine. On Christmas Eve, when the man is at home with his family, he is served papers by Patrick Reed, okay, to appear for him in court to testify for him. He's subpoenaed on Christmas Eve with his family. Rory didn't take too kindly to it, just to say the least.
That's cold. That's... I can't say the words I want to say while keeping it family shows. I'll just say that's just... Whew! Okay, that's unique. Best way I can put it. Wow. Subpoenaed on Christmas Eve, man.
I know, I'd be mad.
Yeah.
You're wrapping the gifts for your daughter. I have a 2-year-old. I'm wrapping the gifts with my wife. I get a knock on the door. Who could it be? It's Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
And it's somebody serving me a subpoena. Man, if we're on good terms, you could have done that anytime.
Yeah.
Could have done that anytime. And there had been some beef there because of the fact that Reed went to LIV, and obviously Rory and Tiger have been the two biggest golfers on the PGA Tour that are against LIV, right? Those are sort of the ambassadors for the PGA Tour. So there was already something there about, hey, Patrick's leaving for LIV. Rory doesn't really appreciate it. He wishes he would have stayed here. And then this, right, with all of the litigations and the suing that's going on, right? PGA and LIV are going back at each other in court, and then Reed subpoenas the man on Christmas Eve. It's just not a good look. So do I blame the guy for not shaking his hand and not acknowledging him during his practice session before the tournament actually started? I don't.
Yeah, that makes sense. So for my one last thing for the next couple months here, I'm a big guy when it comes to mock drafts, team rebuilds, and whatnot. So I'm just gonna throw in a prospect that Lions fans should probably keep their eyes on the radar, just to see in case what happens. Because end of April is going to be insane. I can't wait for it. It's my favorite time of the year. There's one guy I want to talk about. He is a tight end. Yeah, can you believe it? I'm talking tight end with the Lions. Especially after trade T.J. Hawkinson. But I feel there's a guy out there who could go second, third round that's going to be, he's 6'7", 270. It's a tight end. That's not a small man, is it?
No.
That's a guy that you want to run a game. And he comes from a physical running program, too. But also known for a team that's kind of been pretty well. I'm talking about from the University of Georgia, tight end by the name of Darnell Washington. He wore number 0 if you watched him. If you saw this massive human being who ran a 10-yard out route somehow and caught the ball and ran for like 15 yards as 3 guys tried to tackle him, it was that guy. The only reason he didn't get a whole lot of attention is because he was a number 2 tight end behind a sophomore by the name of Brock Bowers, who's probably going to be a top 5 pick in next year's draft. But no, Darnell Washington, again, 6'7", 270, behemoth. But man, if you look at the receiving core they have now, you throw him in mix with like Jameson Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown and DJ Shark. Like, add him for like your 6th man in the running game and then have him sneak out on some routes. Like, that could be a really good use for that Minnesota 2nd round pick to try and move up and get that guy. Because, I mean, probably first 2 picks are going to go toward defense. I mean, why not add just one more player, especially a guy who is literally a dog, a bulldog. I mean, why not try and add that to an offense that's already, big and physical? Just maybe get a little more value in that position. So, yeah, I think Darnell Washington out of Georgia a lot. So, yeah, if you get a chance to watch his highlight reels, it's kind of unfair watching the 6 foot, 190 pound freshman safety try to bring that grown man down. So. yeah. But I think this wraps up episode 3. McLain, any last thoughts you want to get off your chest before we sign off till next week?
No, man, but I'll just keep reiterating it. Really having a lot of fun with this, guys. So please, keep subscribing, listening, downloading, wherever you get your podcasts, aside from Apple, right? We're still having some issues there, but we'll get to it. We'll get to it eventually, and then you guys can, everybody with an iPhone can just do it right there with the pre-installed app. But until then, YouTube with the Manistee News Advocate channel, please hit that subscribe button, and on Spotify as well, hit those downloads.
Yes, please like, subscribe, share, spread the news, because it's kind of some good stuff, I feel. So, yeah, that's going to wrap up episode 3. We'll talk to y'all next week, but until that moment comes, keep your stick in the ice.